Hello, welcome to another installment of LSTV. I am your host, Lance Sisney. Thank you for joining. I'd like to start today with our toast. How's everybody been doing? I feel like I'm trying something new today, so if you would hang in there with me, I'm going to do a little bit different editing than I normally do. So I'm going to maybe try to make this one look a little bit different than the other ones. So today I'm going to be drinking a Kool-Aid Jummer, cherry flavored. For everybody out there, cheers. Feel like a kid again. And so let's begin. I thought I'd interface with you the way we see most people interfacing these days, through their devices. So I am going to share my device with you as I read along. Hopefully I can still continue to make some form of eye contact to keep you engaged. But to begin, in 3, 2, 1. So, I had some good news to report. Thanks to our president's announcement last week, we found out that our job numbers are looking great. We'll hear it from the man himself shortly. We usually have the story on CNN.
Report that our economy has created over 300,000 new jobs last month, and that's on top of 500,000 jobs we added the month before. All told, we've created more than 12,000 jobs since I took office, nearly 8,000 of the manufacturing jobs. That means overall, we've created more jobs in 2 years than any administration has created in the first 4 years.
You know, forget what happened shortly before he took office, why those jobs were lost. Let's just erase all that, Let's, and we're even going to qualify this report through a Fox News reporting, which is not normally known to give Joe Biden approval of reporting. But if we hear the same reporting from Fox here.
This number just coming out shows the United States has added 311,000 jobs in the last month.
That is higher than the economists were expecting. They were expecting 203,000 as the unemployment rate edged up to 3.6%.
Well, they try to be a little bit more balanced, you see. But, forget all that. Forget, about the negatives. Let's just focus on the positives, right? But, all this, I'm glad they caught this because just not too long ago, or maybe a little bit before that even, they were properly called out. A lot of people would say on their propaganda, Fox News' propaganda, straight in line with the rest of it that they're just spitting out about the Tucker Carlson tapes and information that he started to release to the public about what was actually not seen on the January 6th. Here is something they didn't show us first. I had to go through a lot of... Go home. Everybody go home. We're going to do as they ask, and we're going to respect the Capitol. So, you didn't hear that video when they were talking about the rioting and the violent insurrection. So, but this is the propaganda, though, because this propaganda is just to inform the public and try to make people forget that the violent insurrection was a violent insurrection. But, hey, we got a couple of extra parts to this. We got another one here.
Dude, I was trying to tell you. I couldn't say much. You just have to wash my chat.
Dude, I was trying to tell you they couldn't say much. There's some people out there trying to frame the people in the Capitol for being violent just because they were associated with them or they were in the same group or whatnot. So, this propaganda tool, I think, we really should look at very closely because, it was recently called out with Russell Brand in another interview about, all the networks are guilty of it. There's not, one that is not guilty of it. So them fighting amongst themselves over who's the worst of the propaganda is sort of, retarded. But, sorry, I digress. Because it's like the internet. It's all the internet. And the internet was specifically designed for propaganda and censorship. Surveillance. All of them kind of start coming together at some point, This is the history of the internet on the expose. Surveillance and censorship were the aims from the outset. I mean, it was if we look back on the history of it, the early years in the late 90s when Al Gore and Bill Clinton were in charge of getting the internet out there, it was primarily a military tool, and it was going to be used for like more of official purposes, and it wasn't necessarily no, sorry, I'm backtracking. It was always meant to be something that was out of our control. The internet is not public domain property. So now that we all got our hands on it, and everybody can just go out and say whatever they want. They can say they can make stuff up, and they can say somebody else is making something up. And at this point, it's hard for anybody to know who's doing what, or what they're doing is really what they say.
Actually, take this with you, because I honestly hope that you will grapple with this. That it may be possible that if we can take off the tinfoil hat, that there's not a vast conspiracy, but that ordinary folks and national security agencies responsible for our security are trying their best to find a way to make sure that our online discourse doesn't get people hurt or see our democracy undermined.
So they're okay with the propaganda. They're okay with that, just as long as it doesn't hurt people. Just as long as it doesn't. It's who the people that get hurt and who the people that get undermined are what become the question. So they're picking and choosing. The parties are taking sides and taking control of government, and they're doing it for power over the budget. We all know this, and it only gets worse. All these systems are designed to break in this way so that become a crisis, an emergency, and you need a bailout to fix it. We still haven't learned anything. We forget many years ago, and this was again around the 90s, the Clinton era, the time with the internet coming up. What led to Enron and WorldCom and the like? Increases in executive compensation, jumps in incentives to manage earnings, and shifts in auditing firm structure contributed to governance failures. Now, just think how many of those things have we just gone through, even in the last 2 years alone. Every single one of those has occurred. And what's happened now? Another bank on down. Silicon Valley Bank. Now, the investors want the government to step in and guarantee their deposits because, we don't want to send the wrong message. We don't want to have the failure to protect deposits cause a loss of faith in the mid-sized banking system because, then, there might not be as much interest in investorship in American products and blah, 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 blah. But it's all part of the game. It's all part of the risk. $250,000 deposit income, that's it. That's all they can insure. So the fact that they want this to, government to step in and bail them out again. And look what happens every time. Inflation, interest rates hike, mortgage rates go up, everything. Every time they bail these banks out, everything gets more expensive for the people who already couldn't afford what they needed. So they had to go to the banks to borrow the money to get it anyways. Well, see, the banks aren't the problem, it's those big investment firms. They're the ones out there buying all the houses up. Well, no, wait a second. The investment firm BlackRock, they say, hey, no, we're not buying up private residences. Let's make this very, very clear that BlackRock is setting the record straight. Accept these cookies here, come on. All right. Let's set the housing record straight. And we're going to talk about recently BlackRock has been the subject of speculation, misperception, and even mistaken identity in media reports and on social media regarding our role in the U.S. housing market. So, there's really... Bottom line, BlackRock is an active investor in the U.S. real estate market, but we are not among the institutional investors buying single-family homes. They just want to make that clear. They just lend the money to those people based on the federally created guidelines of who they can lend to and who they can't lend to, and the lending rates are controlled by those things as well. But hold on, in a little search, when I was looking for this article about BlackRock and what they do, one of the other pages that came up right away was this other neat little thing about the rental investment market. What? The rental investment market? So here we go. We got this newwestern.com here. This is well, they want me to create an account, but here we go. Finding the right investment property can be a challenge. As a real estate investment marketplace, New Western offers a vast inventory of curated properties to meet your investment strategy. So we're not talking about BlackRock buying up the homes. We're talking about places like New Western. They're helping people with investment money take that BlackRock money, and then they will give it to the people for the single family homes and buy all the single family homes and crash the neighborhoods. Because think about this. Okay, so now not only is the government basically taking the money and buying up the properties, they say because they're needed for low-income housing. Well, what is low-income housing? Section 8. Who lives in low-income housing? People on assistance. So the government, it has its entity BlackRock loaning money that it probably got directly from taxpayers to buy up properties in order to turn around and put government housing payments right back into. Oh, sorry. Past that one. Yeah, the federally funded housing assistance. It's I believe it's the HUD.gov. And there's all kinds of ways people get housing assistance. There's all kinds of probably companies and businesses that use the loophole of housing expense to get out of tax payments. There's probably an issue with that does affect the real estate market for the people who want to own their homes, for the people who want to own their own single-family home, make it more competitive and higher price and harder for them to keep their purchases, because then you got, these government entities that buy, the whole block, and basically they're just buying it to rent it out. They have no interest in having a person own that property. But that's just one of the big lies that they tell us. That's just one of those incredibly horrible, painful truths that we have to see, that the government has control over our lives. And, while they pull this charade behind our back, the wool that they pull over our eyes is this a big, battle about Russia and Ukraine and who blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. It's becoming a big thing in the news right now. I mean, you look at the map and, we got NATO countries surrounding the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, but we don't know who blew it up. Just couldn't figure that one out. That's just, beyond our realms of comprehension. So, we're just going to skip past all that stuff and, we're going to jump on in. But you know what? The thing I think about that is the really misleading thing about that whole story is that, we kind of forgot quickly because they're resurfacing the argument about who did it again, and we're kind of getting lost in that, East Germany or Germany or Ukraine, who was involved. Well, we forgot that there was another pipeline ready to go. It was ready to go. I mean, that other pipeline was set up. It was just waiting, anointing. The U.S., I believe, originally said that they were against this pipeline because we supported the Nord Stream pipeline. So therefore, this other pipeline, I believe, goes through Turkey. And it's funny because, all these wars and stuff, they say they're fought over all these things. The one thing I can guarantee they're being fought over in 99.99% of the time is oil and gas and power and money, stuff like that. And, so we got Russian pipeline competing with Mediterranean pipeline that goes through Turkey. Well, now, Russian pipeline blew up. Well, who's to say that wasn't planned demolition? Who's to say that the Nord Stream was already, leaking, or who knows? Maybe there was other problem with that. I don't know. But there was too much things going on here that you got to just take the face value for what they say, because the next day they had another pipeline ready to go. They were supplying Europe with gas. There was no stop in production or shipment. It's just who was getting paid out of it. So then, I want to skip past this, and then Turkey has this horrible earthquake of magnitude that is like almost like, it sounds like it was horrible. I don't know what it really was like there, but I'm sure it was just amazing. There was destruction, there was things all over the place, and yet there was these weird clouds over Turkey that was reported just a couple of weeks later when all the photos started to come out, and USA Today had to fact check it because people were saying it was part of some HARP experiment. And there was, of course not. It can't be that because they're never going to come out and say it was. But you look at it and you tell me. I'm just saying. I've never seen a cloud like that before in my life. And, so it's just really hard for me to go along with the stuff when most of it it's already hard enough to believe. But then when they put it in ways that just make it impossible to take anything what they're saying for granted, it's not like, but, in addition to what I was, turn this screenshot off thing real quick, hold on. But in addition to, this, I don't really think they can be that mad about these pipelines getting blown up because they want you to go green anyway. So the more reason they have to shut off gas and push you and the investors into the electric is, we messed up the infrastructure. Might as well just spend that money instead of fixing the old infrastructure. Just go ahead and go green now because we got everything set up and ready to go. Mr. Elon Musk buying up all this stuff, and he's really, forget about it, he's not just this crazy Twitter guy. He's the one who started this whole green thing with the Teslas, and now he's operating within this little window where these African countries are going to be willing to sell their minerals to us, and pollute their own countries before the UN steps in and calls it a humanitarian crisis and causes all these different industries to be taxed and all this different tariffs and subsidies to be spent to try to get these minerals out of the ground. Well, it's going to become too expensive to make electric cars in, so they are putting everything they can into it to destroy that land as fast as they can to get those minerals out, so they can sell you an electric car that they know is probably going to end up right back in that landfill. And when that electric car ends up in the landfill and those landfills are overrun, you know what they're going to do? They're going to come right back to you and they're going to say, we need money to clean up the landfills. Scary thing when you see it. Sorry if I see it in a way you don't see it. And I really hope it's not the way I see it. But if I see it the way it is, if anything, we can be ready for it. I don't know how much we can do about it alone. I think the only way we can do about it is to do about it together. And the best way we can do about it together is to inform your fellow man, your brothers and sisters, when you see their lives in danger, when you see their being under threat of control of the government or having their life or liberty taken away. You don't have to protect them. You don't have to lift a finger. But the least you can do is warn them. Sometimes you can't even do that because sometimes they don't even want to hear it. So we're all stuck between a rock and a hard place. Thanks for tuning in with me. My name is Lance History. This is LSTV. Good night.